I have had the privilege of working with Chairman Pitts on the Appropriations Committee in the past. I've had the privilege of serving with him on the Appropriations Conference Committee in the past. And I know that the work is not easy. The hours are long. It's tedious. And in this particular session, I know it was more difficult than those in the past. And so before I even get started, I want to, as a member of the Appropriations Committee, even as Vice Chair, to commend him for his hard work, for his labor, for the time that he has spent on this. I know it is not easy, but he has done it with style and class, and I commend him for it. And I think this House should commend him as well. To all of the subcommittee chairs, and I've had the chance of working with them, and I count them and view them as friends, and respect them dearly. I stand before you this evening in the position that I'm taking because in large part the issues before us is bigger than Chairman Pitts. It's bigger than the subcommittee chairs, and it's bigger than me, quite frankly. The issues are just bigger. If this was a referendum on my respect and admiration and friendship for Chairman Pitts, I would vote for this bill. And if it was a referendum on my respect and admiration for those who have head the various subcommittees, I would vote for this bill. But it's bigger than that. It is much, much bigger than that. On March the 4th, I received a letter from a sixth grader who happens to live in Representative Dan Huberty's district. I want to read to you in part what she wrote. She said, "My name is Marcel Shimon Farrar. I am from Kingwood, Texas. I am 12 years old and in the sixth grade at Creekwood Middle School. I've heard that we're having some problems with money. They might cut electives and some teachers. But I'm starting to get scared because at first I thought it was just a rumor. But things started to get serious. In school, we learn about heroes who take a stand. And that is what I would like to achieve in this letter. I want to make a difference." She says some other things, and then she goes on to say another thing. I would like to say is that if you cut teachers, not only my generation, but generation after mine would have worse educational opportunities. More kids would have to go into our classes, and each kid would not have enough attention. And then she signs it, "Sincerely, Marcel Shimon Farrar. I am proud to be an American and to one day to be free to vote. I deserve a good education." I kept this letter because I was deciding whether or not I was going to speak on it or not. I've had the privilege of serving on the Appropriations Committee under Speaker Laney, under Speaker Craddock, and now under Speaker Strauss. And out of all of those times, I have voted for the Appropriations Committee bill 6 out of 7 times. I have voted on the floor of this House for appropriations bill 6 out of 7 times. This is the first time in my 12 years of being on the Appropriations Committee that I will not cast an affirmative vote for this bill. Let me tell you why. This has been an eventful weekend for me. With Representative Alma Allen's husband's funeral, my brother-in-law's funeral on Saturday as well, and then 2 months ago, my best friend and law school classmate from Harvard died, and it brought things home to roost for me that tomorrow is not promised. And so you have to start wondering and saying to yourself, What then will be your legacy? What do you leave? And who knows what tomorrow will bring? Let me tell you what this budget achieves, and I'm sure Chairman Pitts will tell you as well. Do we reduce the size of government? Absolutely. Do we reduce spending? Absolutely. Do we preserve most of the rainy day fund? Absolutely. And do we leave the franchise tax intact? Absolutely. But let me also tell you what the consequences are. When we look at the educational system, it is a system that we are dismantling. No new textbooks underfunded by $315 million. Pre-K programs significantly reduced. $800 less per student. The approximate 170,000 kids that we are expecting over the next 2 years, we pretty much are treating them like they will not come into the system. And you've heard about the thousands of school teachers and others that will be laid off. I could go on and on. You've heard it before. You already know it. I'm not going to waste your time on that. But one thing I think we all know is that education is important. When we leave here at the end of May, we will go out and not one of us will talk down education because we recognize its importance. This bill dismantles the educational infrastructure in the state of Texas. On the health care side, you can go down the list. You've heard it before. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. But when it comes to provider rates, doctors, right now in the current system, only 42% of our doctors are providing the assistance to these Medicaid individuals. This bill will reduce it even more. Under the current system, we're only paying for 60% of the costs that our hospitals are assuming right now. Under this bill, it will be even less. And this bill will literally force some hospitals to close, literally. And it doesn't matter whether they're in rural Texas, suburban Texas, or urban Texas. This bill, when you vote on this bill, you will be forcing some hospitals to close and bear significant costs. When you talk about people with developmental and intellectual disabilities, we are cutting the rates. Literally, in this bill, there are people who want to live in their communities, people who want to live in their homes, people who want to work, and we are denying them the assistance that they will need because they want to live independent lives. This budget will literally shut the doors for many of those people. When you talk about mental health services, Representative Christian had an amendment not too long ago. I share your concern. But for so many other people, this bill will shut the doors for many of them. You've talked about nursing homes. And Representative Christian, you said 48 hours ago, 48 hours later, nursing homes will be attended to. 48 hours have come and gone, and the nursing homes remain the same. One survey said that 80% of the 1,000 plus nursing homes would close. The association, Health Association said, conservatively speaking, 50% will shut their doors. That's about 43,000 elderly and disabled people. 60,000 employees in the nursing home industry will lose their jobs. We're talking about the elderly and people who are disabled. And in this budget, literally, those doors will shut on the elderly and those who are disabled. Literally. Not one of us will leave this chamber and go back to our district and take ownership of those cuts. Not one of us will leave here and say what we did in closing these homes, we're proud of it, or in shutting these facilities, or these community-based programs, we're proud of us. Not one of us. And literally, they will close. And our response is, down the road, we will fix it. But this is the people's house. I've been here for 22 years. This is the people's house. We don't wait on the Senate to save us. We don't wait on the Senate to give us cover. It reflects the House values. It reflects who we are. And when we vote for it, or if you vote for it today, you adopt it as your values, what we stand for. The other day when I was in my district, a lady asked me, Sylvester, how do you expect to go and prevail when the numbers are not on your side? And my response to her, I'm going back to Austin, Texas. And my position is not as a Democrat. And I won't talk to them as Republicans or Democrats. My appeal will be to them as Texans. As Texans. And it doesn't matter where you live. We are Texans. When the issue came up a few weeks ago, months ago, in reference to the 4 community colleges that were being closed, I understood what Representative Bonham was saying. We are keeping them open. But just like those community colleges remain open, what about the rest of the people in the state of Texas? What about our children? What about our teachers? And what about the elderly? I want to close with this. At the beginning of this session, I joined with Representative Simpson and others in an inaugural sermon that was held here on the first day of the session. And we talked about recognizing that we must believe in someone greater than ourselves. I still on this day believe that. But it will not get better as long as we take positions. And if we are counting who wins or who loses, when we are dealing with real live individuals, it will not make any difference. Today, I went to church. Quite frankly, I stayed for 2 services, not just one. And before I left, I stopped by to see my mom, 86 years old, been suffering with Alzheimer's for 7.5 years. We have providers around the clock, 24/7. And I believe in large part, that's why she's still alive. 4 years ago, the doctor said put her in hospice. We took her home, put providers around the clock, family rallied around her. 4 years later, with God's blessings, she is still here. But we can afford those providers. We can afford to have them with my mom. And in part, you know why? Because her children are educated, and her children are working, and her children are taking care of her. But today in this budget, you are cutting the future of the children of the state of Texas. And you will not just hurt them. You'll hurt those who are yet to come. I can't vote for it. And I will not. I won't vote for it. And neither should you. Because it's not about the Senate to save us. If this is the Texas House, then the Texas House needs to stand up. This budget I cannot and will not support because it hurts too many when it should not. And it's not about this governor. It's about our districts. Representative Christian, and for all the rest of you, if you hurt in your district and you need help, I will stand with you. And it doesn't matter whether we're Democrats and Republicans. At the end of the day, we are either Texans and we go up together, or we are Texans and we go down together. This budget is not worthy of the Texas House of Representatives.